IIT&M in collaboration with IEEE CS Bangalore chapter. I request Sunanda ma'am to speak a few words about the event. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone present here, and welcome to Dr. Sanjay H.A., Professor and Head of Information Science and Engineering Department, NMIT Bangalore. And I would like to welcome you and Dr. Anjan Krishnamurthy, sir, IEEE Branch Head of BMS IT&M. And I welcome our beloved HOD, Dr. Bhuvaneshwari Madam, for the inaugural session of our IEEE Girl Geeks. Actually, this has been started in the year 2019. That was the first session what we have handled, and it was a technical program. At that time, we took a topic has machine learning and deep learning concepts. And for this current academic year, we have planned Girl Geeks activity, a technical forum, a flagship event from BMSIT CS chapter, as well as from Bangalore section CS chapter, as I am the Execom member there. So we are planning to conduct Girl Geeks program second edition at our BMSIT Computer Science department, and I would like to welcome all the participants as well. So as you are aware, cloud computing has become a popular buzzword, and it has been widely used to refer to different technologies, services, and concepts. And it is often associated with virtualized infrastructure or hardware on demand, utility computing, IT outsourcing, platform and software as a service, and many other things that are the focus of the current today IT industry. Okay, cloud computing is emerging everywhere, and it is the buzzword, as well as it is taking over the maximum companies where they wanted to move towards cloud as a. It is one of the utility, how it is going to be taken as our electricity or water supply. That way we can connect and we can work on it for a hour basis or monthly basis, or whatever based on the needs. Okay, I would like to introduce, I would like to welcome Dr. Sanjay sir, who is the researcher under cloud computing, and he has got very vast knowledge with respect to cloud computing, and he has done his PhD in the same field, that too in IAC. And now I would like to welcome you all and handing over the session to our speakers as well as our coordinator students. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, and welcome you all.
Thank you,
ma'am. Thank you, Sunanda ma'am. We are very grateful for your time and thoughts on this events. Your presence is greatly valued and appreciated. So let's kickstart this event. So let's kickstart our first track with a talk on containers, future of hybrid clouds, which is a cloud computing service composed of a combination of private and public cloud services. Before I introduce our renowned speaker, I would like to ask the basic question: what is cloud computing? We all might have heard about the word cloud computing at some or other time. So to put it in a simple way, cloud computing is a delivery of services that includes servers, storages, databases, networking, etc. over the internet, that is the cloud, to offer faster innovation, flexible resources, etc. There are many benefits of cloud computing, such as cost efficiency, increased speed, increased performance and productivity, and security. But this is just a brief introduction of cloud into the world of cloud computing. But what exactly is cloud computing? What are its pros and cons? Why are leading companies like IBM, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, etc. are thoroughly interested in deploying these services to partners and customers? What is the current trend in cloud computing? All these compelling, mind-boggling, and overwhelming questions will be answered by our speaker, Dr. Sanjay H.A., Professor and HOD of ISC Department, NMIT. Now I will pass this session over to my colleague Akshat to give a short introduction to our speaker. Over to you, Akshat.
Hello, my name is Akshat Sharma.
Akshat, 1 minute. Before that, I request our HOD ma'am to speak a few words on the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
So I am very happy to be part of this Girls Geek program, which is an initiative by IEEE chapter, and I am glad that I am observing since my join to the department. So many activities are being conducted actively by Professor Sunanda and Dr. Anjan. I'm very happy to be associated with this program. The name itself is very interesting, Girls Greek. So I was asking Madam yesterday, why is that name? Is it intended for only girl students or what? So no, Shri Hari, Akshat, by observing all these students, it's not only limited, though the name is Girls Greek, but it is not limited to Girls Greek. It's for everyone. So that's a nice event. And I warmly welcome Dr. Sanjay sir, who is the HOD of ISC department at NMIT. So I expect that all the students take the benefit of such programs that are being conducted at our department by our proud of faculty members. And I'm also proud of the student coordinators like Shri Hari and Akshat. So who are involved who are involved in engaging or creating an enthusiasm among the students in the participation of such events. So take the best of the event. So thank you one and all. Thank you, madam, for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this event. Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind words, ma'am. Now, Akshat, you can go around with a short intro of the speaker. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Akshay Sharma, and our speaker today is Professor Sanjay H.A. from Nitin Rashtriya Institute of Technology. He's a pioneer in researches in the field of cloud computing and blockchain, along with the technologies like parallel computing and data mining. He is a BE graduate from Coimbatore University and MTech from VTU and PhD from Indian Institute of Science and Technology, Bangalore. His successful research in the field has been recognized by the most prestigious institutions such as UNESCO, VTU, and Department of Information Technology like New Delhi. He has served as a member of editorial board for many prestigious journals and is a serving member of the board of directors of Indian subsidiary of TG Global Ventures USA. He has played a major role in establishing the student-driven campus company in this innovations lab, and we are very fortunate to have him here. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Akshat. So I thank Dr. Sunanda Dikshit and Rubini for inviting me to give the lecture here. Okay, so yes, so what I see is I think we have first year student, second year student, third year student, and also fourth year student in this particular meeting. Am I correct, Rubini? Even first year students are also there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are there.
Because because my talk, I have to go to that level to explain to them about what is cloud actually, and also what is container and how container is useful for the hybrid cloud. Let me share my screen. Slide visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So good afternoon again. I may go up to 130 or 140, depending upon how fast or how slow we are going. Again, you can interrupt at any point of time. The topic I've chosen is the containers, the future of hybrid cloud. So this is a recent article in the newspaper talking about growth over past years. Okay, so they're including 40% is there. Again, DevOps % growth is there. In the data science, 39%, programming language, 30%. So whatever the domain you take, you talk about data science or you talk about machine learning. Okay, so whatever the domain you take, so for that the cloud is one of the requirement. Okay, so they may be talking about Spark, or they may be talking about Hadoop. Okay, so any domain, again the cloud will come into picture. Okay, so let me go to the detail of what is cloud. Then I'm going to shift to the container. Okay, so even today the cloud, the professional. So there is a huge demand for the cloud professional. Again, the Google Cloud Platform, we have Amazon, so many Google platforms are there. So everyone is looking for, again, the most of the companies are looking for cloud professionals. Again, at the entry level also, Okay, so nowadays the Google is coming forward to give the Google Cloud Platform courses, that is Google Career Readiness Program for the students. Okay, so you people can take that. Again, you'll be, once you are thorough with that, they will give the tool. Okay, so as a cloud service, they will give a tool to explore the Google Cloud Platform. Once you are thorough with that, so you are ready to join as a cloud professional in any of the top MNCs. So what is cloud? So the basic definition I'm talking about here, it allows user to deal with software without having the hardware. Everything is done by remote, nothing is saved locally. So now I am using a laptop, or you are using a mobile phone or normal desktop. You need a high-end computing power. Okay, high-end computing power, or you may need a software which is not installed in your computer, or it is not there in your laptop or a desktop or on your mobile. Okay, so you are going to get it from the cloud on demand. Okay, whatever the software you take, so you want to use the MATLAB. Okay, so but the MATLAB software is not there. Yes, many of us we are going to use a cracked version. That is not legal, correct? That is not recommendable. We are using a lot of cracked versions of different software. That is not recommendable. But if I want to use the legal software, but that is not with me, again I have to use it for only 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 1 hour. After that, I am not going to use that software. If I purchase it, I'm investing a lot of money on that. Correct? If I'm going to purchase, I'm going to invest a lot of. Again, it is subscription based. Yearly subscription will be there for the most of the software. Every year I have to pay for that. Again, I may take some MATLAB 4. Next year, it may be a MATLAB 5. Now it is, I think, more than MATLAB 10, MATLAB 12. Those versions are there. Whatever the MATLAB I'm taking, that will be a lower version. Again, next year it will change. The version changes. So in that case, the cloud will be helpful. On demand. Okay, so no need to buy a software or no need to buy a infrastructure. High-end workstations we require. Nowadays, if you want to go for some machine learning project, data, because the huge amount. But whatever the computing power you have at your lab or in your home, okay, that may not be sufficient to serve the purpose. In that case, I can rely on the cloud. I will get whatever the infrastructure, whatever the computation power, or whatever the storage power. Everything will be available on demand, on the fly. I'm going to pay for 1 hour, or I'm going to pay for 1 day, I'm going to pay for 1 month. Different cost models are there. As per your requirement, you can buy it and use it, and you are going to save the money also. Cost effective. One is on the fly, again the cost effective. These are the two important things. Again, if the software changes, it is a headache of that software. The new version comes, it is a headache of the cloud. Headache of the cloud or a cloud vendor. They will come up next year. If I'm using MATLAB new version, is there available for me? Okay, so that is what cloud is. It is a day-to-day affair. We are using the cloud. You're using a lot of apps in your mobile, lot of services in your mobile. You're booking the flight ticket, you're booking the train ticket, you're booking the bus ticket. You're going for watching a movie through Netflix. So 99% of the services, what you're getting on your mobile is cloud service. How this cloud is evolved? Whenever we want to go for, or if you want to do the computing, then we have to go to the operator, and that operator is going to manage our programming, that is whatever the program we have submitted. That is mainframe computing. Then in 90s, 80s, the cluster computing. Nowadays, still today, the cluster is one of the important aspect of computing. Cluster computing. Then the concept called as grid computing came into picture, and 2007 the cloud computing came into picture. So I will tell you why we have shifted from cluster to grid and grid to cloud. Again, now we are talking about edge computing, we are talking about fog computing. Those are the part of the cloud computing itself. Edge computing and fog computing. What is cluster? Take the desktops which are there in your lab, connect with the communication link, that will become a cluster. If you want to build a 8-node cluster, take 8 workstations or 8 desktops and connect to your communication link, that is through switch, and then this will become a cluster. Again, for all these things, the basics is distributed system. What is distributed system? Autonomous computers connected through the communication network. Again, you can say here, these are the autonomous computers. Autonomous computer means every computer is having its own capability. Every computer is having its own capability. Without connecting to the network, this can work independently. So we are calling it as autonomous computers. Autonomous computers connected through the communication network, then we are calling it as a distributed system. So the cluster, cloud, grid, all are part of the distributed system. The basics is distributed system only. Again, distributed system is having a lot of benefits. I'm not going to cover that, but while talking about the benefits of these things, so you'll understand what are the benefits of the distributed system. So usually the cluster computing came into picture to, okay, take an example of the weather forecasting. You have to predict the weather of next day. How they're going to predict? They are going to refer 100 years of data. 100 years of data. Whatever the daily basis weather is there, 100 years of data they are going to refer. That will be feeded to predict the next day weather or next 10 days weather. Is it possible to compute with a single node? If I go for a single node to compute or to predict the next day weather, I may take 1 year. a few months. That's the reason that this parallel computing came into picture. Parallel computing. The application will be divided into tasks. Again, every task will be executed in multiple nodes. Multiple nodes. So then these tasks are going to parallelly execute. No, concurrently it will execute. We can complete quickly. Again, the cluster is also not enough. The people are talking about supercomputers. The people are talking about data centers. I hope you have heard about the supercomputer or data center. What is supercomputer? It is simple. Yes, the name itself, it gives the name, it is talking about super. Simply you take a rack or a cupboard, put all high-end computers there, connect all those high-end computers with a high-speed network, then that will become a supercomputer. That will become a supercomputer. Okay, so we'll discuss. The next slide, we have a data center picture. I will tell you why again, the lot of computers are connected, and what is the advantage of data center and what is the disadvantage of data center, that I'm going to discuss. Okay, so the cluster. Okay, so cluster computing means the multiple computers connected through this switch. Again, to get a better performance, application will be executed quickly. Also, I may get better storage. Every computer will have a disk. Better storage we are going to get. Again, the fault tolerance. If one computer fails, nothing to worry. Other computers are there to process it. Fault tolerance. Then they moved to the grid computing. The grid computing, it's just like a cluster. Assume that I have one cluster maintaining in NMIT. Again, BMSIT is having a cluster or a supercomputer or a data center in their premises. IISc is having some data center. They have a supercomputers, lot of supercomputers. If we collaborate, okay, so I'm going to collaborate with a BMSIT expert. Again, I have to collaborate with my guide who is there in IISc. So we will have a collaboration. We have a MOU. All these compute nodes are connected. Link. Again, the controlled access will be given. Assume that this is there in IISc. I may be sitting here. I have a controlled access. I cannot access complete all the resources of this particular supercomputer. They may say that, okay, only the computing resource I can use. I cannot use the storage resource. Again, the BMSIT can give the storage for me. Okay, so storage, I'm going to get it from the BMSIT. Okay, so some other computing resources may be there in CDAC. So with a collaboration, we are going to have the computing power. So if whatever the computing power is not sufficient, which is not available for me in my campus, I can get it from IISc, or I can get it from CDAC, or I can get it from BMSIT. Again, the BMSIT people can get it from from another premises. Hope what is cluster and what is grid is clear. Why the grid name is given is, I think you may be heard about the electricity grid. Again, the Karnataka is generating a lot of power. Andhra Pradesh is generating some power. Again, Uttar Pradesh is generating some power. If Karnataka faces some shortage of power, if Andhra Pradesh is having a surplus power, we are going to get the power from the Andhra Pradesh. If the Karnataka is having surplus power, electricity power, that will be given to some Uttar Pradesh. Okay, based on the electrical grid, they came up with a grid computing. They came up with grid computing. Is that clear? What is the difference between cluster computing and a grid computing? Any of the first year student can answer me. Is that clear, the participants?
Yes, sir.
Hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
Okay, so participant, is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So data center. You can see here, these are the racks. Again, every rack is having a horizontal nodes, computers, horizontal nodes. Again, there will be a storage nodes. Again, there will be a computing nodes. So you can see here that it lakhs of cores or lakhs of nodes will be there in a data center. Okay, so Yahoo will have its own data center, Infosys will have its own data center, Google will have a lot of data centers residing in different parts of the world. See how clean it is. Again, completely air conditioned. Completely air conditioned. So the key challenges of data center is maintaining availability and uptime. Again, because there will be thousands of nodes will be there and lakhs of cores will be there. I think you may be knowing about every computer can have a dual core, quad core, hexa core processors. So lakhs of cores will be there, thousands of nodes will be there. Again, all the nodes are connected through the high-speed communication network, gigabit network, or even more than that. Okay, so MIRINET, so many different technologies are there. So these nodes are connected with the high-speed network. High-speed network. Then definitely because the thousands of nodes are there will be failures of nodes or failures of communication link. If the user wants to use these services which are residing here, then maintaining availability and the uptime of the servers is one of the key challenges. Again, improving the utilization of the capacity. Whatever the power is there, whatever the computing power is there, whatever the storage of power is there, how are you going to improve? Again, there are some concerns about the power, cooling, and the space. Reporting reduced operating expenses. It is not only the computation cost, the operating expenses. I will tell you why the operating expenses are more here. Again, the managing energy usage and the cost, whatever the power requirement is there to maintain the data center, that is too high. Again, improving the staff productivity, because 24/7 these servers will be running, so staff productivity. I'll give you an example. One of the data center of Yahoo, which is there in US, which requires the power which is equivalent to the whatever the power consumption of the half of the Bangalore city is there, that much power it consumes. Half of the Bangalore city. Huge power requirement. For what purpose this power, electricity, we are using it? It is not only for the computation. Most of the time, it is for cooling the data center or cooling the servers. Anyone is having a workstation model laptop with you? Do you have workstation model laptop with you? If you have a workstation model laptop, yes, the name says laptop. You cannot keep that workstation model laptop for more than 10 minutes on your lap. Why is that?
It heats up, sir.
It generates a lot of heat. Why we are not increasing speed? Instead of increasing the processor speed, we are coming up with multiprocessor, multi-core models. Why we are not increasing the speed of the processor? The heat generation. If you keep on increasing the speed of the processor, it explodes. The computer will explode because of the whatever the heat it generates. That's the reason they came up with a multiprocessor system. They came up with a multi-core system. Then the next level, they came up with a cluster, grid, and finally they came up with a cloud. Because the computation requirement is too much. We don't have patience. When I started my engineering career, I used to work with the 286 machine. If I submit the task, I have to wait for 2-3 minutes to complete. Now I don't have a patience to run the same type of task. I want the output in nanoseconds. The people will come and complain me, sir, system is slow. Even though they have a i5 machines. We don't have a patience nowadays. Everything should be on the fly. Response should be quick. So that's the reason all these technologies came into picture. One year, if it consumes, in that point will go 0.7 will go for cooling. 0.3 is going for computation, 0.7 is going for cooling. Assume about the operating expenses. That's the reason the maintaining a data center is a costly affair. Maintaining a data center is a cost. Again, thousands of nodes are there. Computation power is there. A lot of storage power is there. Again, who is going to use it? Most of the time, many of the resources are underutilized. Even though I have a lot of computation power, even though I have a lot of storage power, these resources are underutilized. Okay, so with this particular concern, the cloud came into picture. Okay, if I'm utilizing this data center for only Yahoo employees, or if I'm using this Amazon web data center for only Amazon users. Yes, they created the data center for their own use, for their own customers. Later, they thought that maintaining these data centers is a costly affair. Again, the systems are underutilized. Then why can't we give these resources for rent? That came into, there is a business model. The cloud itself is a business model. So then computing concept. So till that time it is, that is not for money. Grid computing is not for money. Like-minded organization, just like educational organization, they have a link. Because we are sharing. Opposite party can share my resources, I am going to share the opposite party's resource. That is great. That is not for cost or not a business model. Then they came up with a business model that is cloud. What is cloud? It is having historical roots in today's internet apps. Whatever the search, email, social network, your Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everything is a cloud service. Again, the file storage, Live Mesh, MobileMe, Flickr, everything is a cloud service. Why the name cloud, given cloud, why the name is cloud is, okay, so the resources, the internet, the people used to show with a cloud symbol. There is a, while drawing the picture, they used to have the cloud picture. Okay, means internet itself just like a block box. Okay, so then by seeing that cloud diagram, so they given the name as cloud computing. Okay, when you go to your Word or your Paint, there is a cloud symbol that you can use it. That is to, for most of the time they will show it internet through that. Okay, so because of that, the name given is cloud. Cloud infrastructure provides a framework to manage scalable. It can scale like anything. Today I may require some 1 terabytes of storage. Then I may require 10 terabytes. I will get it. Or 100 terabytes. I will get it. Because it is scalable. Again, the computation requirement, I can scale like anything. Whatever the requirement is there, I can get it. So manage scalable, reliable, like we can rely on the cloud services. Because thousands of nodes will be there, storage disks will be there. Again, the replication, mirroring technology will be there. That is the part of your distributed system. So my data will not be lost. Okay, so whenever you want to go for taking a cloud service, there will be a SLA. SLA stands for Service Level Agreement. Service Level Agreement will talk about the QoS, that is quality of service. Uptime of the server will be 99.999. Like the different parameters will be there. What will be the latency? All those things will be there. That is called as service level agreement. Whenever I'm taking a cloud service, first SLA will be there between the parties, between the cloud vendor and the user. Okay, so that is reliable, on-demand access to the application anytime. And now I require some software, immediately I will get it in 2 minutes. Provisioning. Cloud is the invisible backend. We are not knowing where it is located. I'm not knowing where I'm getting a Google service. I'm not knowing. Is it from the Singapore server or is it from the US server? I'm not knowing. It's the invisible backend. to many of our mobile application or desktop applications. Model of computation or data storage based on pay as you go. How much time you are going to use for 1 hour, 10 minutes, 1 day, 3 months, or for per year. Yearly subscription will also be there. Pay as you go. Access to unlimited remote data center capability. Unlimited. This is another picture of the data center. You can see how lakhs of nodes will be there. This is your classical computing. Whenever there is a requirement, what you are going to do? If any college, the college wants to build some server, they're going to give a configuration, they will buy, they get the quotation and they will buy and own it. The hardware, application, as per the requirement, we'll buy. Then we are going to install, configure, test, verify, and evaluate. So after that, we have to manage those servers. And also you have to use it. The users are going to use it. Since you are buying your own infrastructure, again, you are going to manage the infrastructure. There will be some admins to manage it. So there will be a lot of money involved. It is not only for the first time and also for managing. Again, every 18 months, as per the Amdahl's law, that is every 18 months, that is the technology changes, requirement changes. Again, we need to buy it, the new infrastructure. So a lot of cost, lot of time. Again, immediately I will not get the service. I have to use it. Immediately I will not get the service. Lot of things will be there. Getting a quotation, buying it. Again, it takes some time. Installing. So a lot of time is involved. But when you go to the cloud, simply you are going to subscribe and use it. You're going to subscribe and use it. You should have a normal desktop or a normal laptop. So what is the money involved? Pay for what you use based on the quality of service. Which is having more benefit? Classical computing or a cloud computing? Which is having a more benefit?
Cloud computing.
Cloud computing.
Cloud computing. Because the cost involved is less. How quickly I'm going to get the service. So 3 different models are there. Nowadays we have so many other models also. So the popular ones are infrastructure as a service. That is, I want to set up a company. I don't want to invest money on the infrastructure. Means computers. All the 4 to 5 employees may be there. Everyone will have a laptop. High-end computing power, no need to invest on that because lakhs of rupees involved. Okay, so because the business should grow, no? So once it is established, yes, I can buy on my own infrastructure. So then I'm going for a cloud, that is infrastructure as a service. Infrastructure as a service. So service users maintain software. Okay, so we'll get a computing power, RAM and other things, but users need to maintain the software in infrastructure as a service. Next is a platform as a service. Users are given a software and hardware automatically. Okay, so here I want to build an application. I require so many tools. So I require a platform, software development kits and other things. So all tools will be available as a platform as a service. Next one is software as a service. So specific software, just like I give an example of MATLAB, I need to use it. Okay, so I can use that. So once I say PaaS, so hardware also should be there. Once I say SaaS, again the hardware is also will be there. So these are the three different models. Okay, when I go for SaaS, CRM, email, virtual desktop, communication, games, those things are given as a software as a service, platform as a service, the database, web server, development tools, execution runtime. Once I say infrastructure as a service, virtual machines, server, storage, load balancers, networks, these things will be given as an infrastructure as a service. Coming to the deployment models, we have a public cloud. Anyone can access. Your Amazon, it's a public cloud. There will be a public, again, there will be a private and other clouds are there under Amazon. Usually, if you want to get service, it's a public cloud. Anyone can access it. Okay, there will be a service provider. Amazon is a service provider. Rackspace is a service provider. Google, it is having its own cloud, public cloud. Okay, done by the public service. Community cloud. Some specific reason, organization from specific community with common concerns. All education institutions can come to that particular cloud. VTU, if they have the cloud infrastructure, all colleges coming under VTU can connect to that. That will become a community cloud. Next is private cloud. Okay, so why the private cloud instead of public cloud, why we want to go for a private cloud is if I have for a specific reason, again my data or a service, no one can access, just like cloud, so those are the private cloud operated solely for a single organization, only for the employees of the TCS. It's a private cloud. Hybrid cloud is composition of two or more cloud. It may have private cloud, public cloud. If you combine these two, it will become hybrid, or you can have an on-premises cloud that also can be clubbed with the public cloud. That will become a hybrid. On-premises also I can have a cloud. I can build my own cloud. Yes, we have our own cloud in NMIT for research purpose. Okay, so these are the different deployment models. I'm not going to touch upon the issues with the cloud computing. Okay, so I think some other speakers may be talking about that, because here the main concentration should be on containers. Okay, so one of the main issue is the security, because my data party, how my data will be more secure in off-premises. That is a major concern in cloud. Even today, so even though this is there in 2007, the people are working on a security aspect of the cloud. Till today, the people are working on it because there is a loophole. Before going to container, we will understand what is virtualization. What is virtualization? I think screen is visible, no?
No, sir, you stop presenting.
Oh, sorry. It is visible, no, now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, what is virtualization? Why the people went for the virtualization? It's a hardcore of your cloud virtualization. So you can see here we have a traditional computer. We have a hardware resources, operating system, and the applications. Assume that this computer is having a huge computing power, huge storage power. But I am the only user using it. What will happen if I have a huge computing power? Resources are underutilized. Computing or a hard disk underutilized. The same thing happens. It's underutilized because every center is a high-end computer. Every computer will have some 128 core or a 512 cores. That much powerful every node it is in your data center. Then they came up with a virtualization technique. You can see here on the same computer, we are creating a virtual machine. It's not a real machine. This is the real machine. So virtual machine is created. You can see here virtual machine, if it is given to a specific user, they have the hardware resources, they have the operating system, and they have some applications. So part of the hardware resources are given to a particular user. Again, this computer may have the Windows operating system, but here this guest operating system may be Linux, Ubuntu. This may be a CentOS. So we can create multiple virtual machines on a single computer. Multiple virtual machines on a single computer. So what is the benefit if I create multiple virtual machines on a single computer? Here only one user is using it. Here multiple users are using those different virtual machines. This will become multi-user system. Again, my resources are completely utilized. Completely utilized. How we are creating a virtual machine? We should have a virtualization layer. I think you may be heard about VMware, heard about the Zen hypervisor. So different Oracle, VirtualBox. So what is the advantage of the virtual machine? What are the benefits of the virtual machine?
Utilization of the hardware resources is well done.
Yes, utilization. Any other advantages? As a data center vendor, I can generate a lot of revenue because I'm going to give each virtual machine for different users. That is our advantage. Okay, for the data center vendor. Again, multi-user environment I can build on a single computer. What is virtual machine? Virtual machine offers novel solutions to underutilized resources. Application inflexibility. Again, application may require different environment. One application may require Windows platform, one application may require Linux platform. I can do that. Software manageability and security concerns in existing physical machines. If I allow multiple users to use this particular machine, the security concerns will come into picture because all are sharing the resources. But here we are creating a virtual machine. A particular user logging to this particular virtual machine, he cannot log in or he cannot access another virtual machine resources. So security. So existing security concerns of the existing physical machines will also be addressed. It eliminates real machine constraints, increase portability and flexibility. Virtual machine can be ported to another machine. Virtual machine adds software to the physical machine to give an appearance of a different platform or multiple platform. That is virtualization layer. This piece has been added. So benefits is cross-platform compatibility, multiple platforms, increase security, enhance performance, simplify software migration. So if I can migrate the virtual machine, one machine to another machine. Again, different levels of virtualization is there. I'm not going to touch upon the different levels of virtualization. At the instruction set architecture means at the underlying layer, at the hardware level, you can go for instruction set level, you can go for virtualization. Hardware level, you can virtualize. Operating system level, you can virtualize. Library support level, you can virtualize. And also application level, you can virtualize. These are the different levels. I'm not going to touch upon these types of virtualization. Next is the containers. Containers. This picture shows, the lower picture shows the virtual machines, and this is showing the containers. I think you may be knowing about ships will, or your railway, that is trains will carry the containers. Easily portable. That's the reason name given is container. Container is a virtualization of the application instead of hardware. Containers is at the application level. It's also a virtualization. Virtualization of application instead of hardware. It runs on the top of the core OS. You can see here, there will be a host operating system. On that, you are going to create a container. These are the containers. This is container 1, container 2, container 3. It does not require dedicated CPU, memory, and network. Everything is managed by the core operating system. So all these containing the CPU, memory, network. We'll discuss about Docker engine. The Docker is a platform, open source platform to create a containers. We'll discuss about the Docker shortly. Okay, so does not require dedicated CPU, memory, and a network. It's an optimized infrastructure, the speed of deploying a container and the density will be more here. That is, speed will be more, that is high speed. You can see here in your virtual machine, this is the container. This container is having the and the libraries required, the supporting dependencies will be there. Here we have an application, dependencies. Important thing is a guest operating system. Guest operating system. Again, the virtualized hardware will be here. Guest operating system. So what we can say is the size is bigger here. It will have more. I have a hypervisor and the guest operating system. These two are the overhead on the host operating system. Host operating system will also be there. On a single machine, there will be a host operating system. No, above that, you are creating a virtual machine. It's an overhead. That's the reason this particular quote is there. Containerization seems poised to offer both a complement and a viable alternative to server virtualization. It will be a viable alternative to server virtualization. Containers are an abstraction at the application layer that packages code and dependencies together. Which code? Application code. Application and dependencies will be packaged. That is container. Multiple containers can run on the same machine and share the same OS kernel with other containers. So all the containers are sharing the same OS kernel. But here, every virtual machine is having its own operating system kernel, each running as isolated processes in user space. Every container is running as isolated processes in user space. Secure, more security will be there. Containers takes up less space than VMs. And it's obvious because here VM, it is having a guest operating system additional. So it is taking less space. So container images are typically tens of MBs in size. Remember this, tens of MBs. Containers can handle more applications and require few virtual machines. Containers can handle more applications and virtual machines and operating system because the size is lesser. So it can handle more applications. Construct that is coming to the virtual machines. It's an abstraction of physical hardware, turning one server into many servers. It's just like a small servers. One physical server, on that you have a small servers. Hypervisor allows multiple VMs to run on a single machine. Again, each VM includes full copy of the operating system. Every VM will have its own copy of the operating system, the application, and necessary binaries and libraries. All these three taking up tens of GBs. Very important, tens of GBs. There, tens of MBs. Now the VMs will take tens of GBs. So VMs can also be slow to boot. To bring the VM up, virtual machine up, it is just like normal machine, how you are booting. Similarly, virtual machine you are booting, it is very slow compared to containers. Hope you got the difference between the container and the virtual machine now. The difference is clear. Is that clear? Any questions?
So I got a doubt.
Sir, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Sir, the containers actually, these are nothing but the abstraction of the application layer, right? But
Yes.
the thing is, whenever I wanted to run any application, then how it will be executed with the help of the containers? Because
Sir,
virtual
first we have to create an image. Okay, for every application we have to create an image. Okay, so
Yes,
for a particular application I may be also using and you are also using, first image will be there. From that image we are going to build the container. Once we build a container, it is immutable. You cannot change the application.
Yes, that is correct, sir.
Okay, what is your doubt, sir?
But sir, because virtual machine will be using the physical resources, right? For an example, maybe the CPU, or it may require some storage to store the application, and from there it will be executed. So,
Yes, sir.
but with the help of container, how it will be executed? As you said that the image will be created. I agree for that.
This picture clearly shows that here also we are using the hardware resource. In virtual machine also we are using the same hardware resources.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it is virtualized. Okay, so here we'll have every virtual machine having its own guest OS. But here, the containers will not have a guest OS. It is going to use the underlying operating system. Then it will be more faster. The containers will be more faster because it's using the host operating system kernel. Here, these things will be using the guest operating system kernel.
Okay.
Are you getting, sir?
So that means, yes, sir. That means on top of the operating system, the containers are executing. But whenever we deal with the virtual machine, so it will require an operating system. So on top of that, it will be executing the application. Is it like that?
Yes. Yes. Here the overhead will be more, sir. More layers are there now. Above host operating system, we have a hypervisor and also guest OS.
Yes. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I understood, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
So
Yes.
So I got this doubt. So if like in a virtual machine, we'll be having different OSs, but then if you're using a container, it'll be taking the features of the underlying operating system.
Correct.
So if I have a Windows, I have Windows as my like host operating system, and I need to run an application which is based, for example, I'll take Kali Linux, and I'm running an application which can't be run on a Microsoft Windows. So if you're using containers, then we need a guest OS, right? Like if I need to run my application, I need Kali Linux. So like how is that done in when it comes to
if your application is operating
like OS
system
dependent.
specific, okay, so then I'm not telling we are not at all using the virtual machine. Virtual machine still it is required for every day we require virtual machine. Containers is only at the application. Container is also a virtualization at the application level. Okay, so if you want to have the specific, the application is specific to the this one operating system. Okay, so different applications again specific to the operating system. You have to go with the virtual machines only. You cannot go with the containers. Okay, so if you are running the multiple applications which is specific to a single operating system, then you can go for the containers. That's all.
Okay, got it, sir. So we can build containers on a virtual machine as well.
Yes, that is also possible. On a virtual machine also you can build multiple containers.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Containers virtualize at the operating system level with multiple on top of directly. Containers are far more lightweight. They share OS kernel, start much faster, use a fraction of memory compared to booting an entire OS. For booting your container, it requires fraction of memory. Okay, but when you go for virtual machine, because it is having an operating system also, guest operating system, it requires more memory. Okay, so there are many container formats are available. One of the popular one is Docker. Docker is popular open source container format that is supported on Google Cloud Platform and by Google Kubernetes engine. We will discuss about Kubernetes also. Okay, it's a platform for your building a containers. What are the benefits of these containers? One of the important benefit is portability. By abstracting the application away from the host operating system, a container environment makes applications run smoothly on any platform or cloud. Easily you can port the containers from one platform to another platform. Okay, but only thing is that machine should have the same operating system. Okay, so that is one advantage. The second one advantage is scalability. With a service-oriented application design, container application holds ability to handle increasing workload Okay, so whatever the workload will be there, this container is going to handle it, thus ensuring application scalability. Again, the single application, the task can be given to multiple containers. Again, you are going to divide the work. Multiple containers will be working for a single application. That is also possible. So the scalable, because we have a plenty of resources in data centers or whatever the in-house data centers. So scalable. Again, the faster deployment. Docker, why it is faster deployment? Small in size. Docker container can create a master version of the image. Once the image is created, okay, so anyone can use that image and deploy the containers. Quickly it will be deployed. Deployment time will be quicker because image is already ready, application image is already ready. So you are going to use that image and create a high productivity. Containers allows developers to change and track the platform source code, thus ensuring high app productivity. Okay, so building a containers. So DevOps, I think you maybe heard about it. Just like Agile methodology for software development. So DevOps, that is for quicker deployment. Okay, so for that, they're using containers again. Okay, whatever the Docker and all those things is there, these things will support that is for high productivity. Quickly you can build a application or build a container and you can deploy it. DevOps is a end-to-end cycle, no? So again, if any management is there required, all those things can be done quickly through this container technology. Enhance security, because you have multiple containers. The user using one container will not be allowed to use the another container. So app isolation, the application isolation methods of containers ensures every application running independently in separate containers have a level of security. Every application will have its own level of security. It will not have any conflict with the other application running in another container. Next benefit is a continuity. Since different containers run independently, failure of one will not have an impact on the continuity of the other. If one container fails, it will not affect the other containers. Okay, so your business will run. Your service is running. Okay, so continuity will be there. Again, the seventh benefit is also enhanced security. Container orchestration tools, there will be tools, we'll discuss about that. Perform application management, automating installation, and management of workloads. Okay, so I think that heading is wrong here. So it is the tools, about the tools. That is, the variety of tools are available for managing the containers or the clusters. So same thing is depicted in here. So multi-cloud platform, it supports testing and continuous deployment, version control can be done, isolation, security, resource friendly, portability, reproduce easily. One image can be, again, with the changes, you can reproduce easily. So these are the key benefits of the container or containerization. Next, coming to the hybrid cloud, how this containers will benefit us. So you know that hybrid cloud is combination of the multiple cloud. You can have public cloud, you can have a private cloud. Private means locked for a particular organization. Again, also you have a infrastructure, your own infrastructure. So the people wants to go for hybrid cloud where they have a huge demand again for a particular application or a particular use case. We want to use both private and public cloud. Okay, so assume that when I go for healthcare, there will be some private data that cannot be accessible to anyone. So that type of services, we can keep it in private. Assume the prescription or whatever the diagnosis they're going to do, that cannot be leaked, no? So there are some critical diseases. So the patients don't want that to come out, or that should not be known to anyone. Okay, so that type of interactions can happen in a private cloud, and usual, that is the normal, whatever the healthcare operations are going on, that is taking an appointment or something, some other things, all those things can be there in a public cloud. Okay, so for a single application, we may use multiple models, multiple deployment models, or multiple models, multiple private, public, or traditional infrastructure. Hybrid cloud is gaining ground among the enterprises that want to expand computing resources with public cloud infrastructure while still using their on-premises data center environment. Means their own cloud plus public cloud. If they want to expand the computing resources, they're going for hybrid cloud. Adding a public cloud can mean more elasticity. So one of the key features of the cloud means it can expand. How much computing power you require, it can scale up. Again, at some point of time, I don't want that much power. It can scale down. It's elastic. Scalability and even faster time to market. So if you want to improve the chance of your hybrid cloud can deliver on its promise, that is SLA, service level agreement, on its promise, you need to think about adding container to the mix. Once I add the public cloud to the whatever the on-premises, again, the lot of demand will be there. A lot of people will be using the public cloud. A lot of load will be there on the cloud. So I may miss SLA, service level agreement. Okay, so in that case, if I add the container, then whatever the SLA I have given, the cloud vendor, that we can meet, whatever the promises are there. So for that, container will help us. Container provide the way to encapsulate application code in a way that makes the code more portable and faster to deploy. So these two are the key things of the container: portable and the faster to deploy. Because of that, we can meet this particular promise or SLA. More and more organizations are using containers as a part of infrastructure for microservices based, very important, microservices based and cloud native applications. So I can say that edge computing is also it's just like a hybrid. The cloud is there here. Okay, so nowadays it is ad hoc, no? your car, okay, your car engines are having sensors. It will having the lot of embedded boards. Again, the lot of mobile devices are there. It is moving from one place to another place. So they are taking a lot of cloud services. For that, they have introduced the edge server. They have introduced the edge server. Okay, nowadays the people are talking about fog computing. That is at the IoT devices level. Okay, so this is not at the application level or that is customer level. It is at the intermediate edge server. Multiple edge servers will be there. Single cloud, multiple edge server. If the car is moving to another region, there will be another edge server. So that will also, this is a combination of multiple servers or a multiple works, that is your data centers. This can also be treated as the hybrid cloud. Here, the decision, the raw data will be fed to the cloud. And when you go for only cloud computing, the decision will be given. Again, a lot of the latency. But here, okay, so raw data, that will be edge server. The edge server can give the decision. Okay, so smaller latency here. That's the reason edge computing, the people are nowadays talking about edge computing and a fog computing. So this can be also treated as hybrid cloud. So we'll see the benefits of using the containers with the hybrid cloud at the end of this particular talk. First, we will see what is Docker. It's a lightweight open source platform. It's an open source platform. Anyone can access it, they can change it, and just like Linux. It simplifies building, shipping, running apps. Okay, it simplifies the building a container, shipping, and running a container. It runs natively on Linux or Windows Server, anything. Also, it runs on Windows or Mac development machines also with a virtual machine. On virtual machine also this Docker will run. This Docker is relies on images and containers. Images and containers. We'll discuss what is that images and containers. Docker image means it's a basic of Docker container. Basic of Docker container. It represents a full application. Image means it represents a full application. Docker container is a standard unit in which application services resides and executes. Inside the container it executes. Applications are executing. That is Docker container. There is a Docker engine which creates, ships, and runs Docker containers. It creates a Docker, it ships the Docker images, and also runs. For that, we require a Docker engine. That is deployable on a physical or a virtual or a host locally or in a data center or in cloud service provider. There is another important component, that is registry services. Whatever the images you're building, that need to be stored in some cloud services, that is registry services. It's a cloud or server-based storage and distribution service for your images. Means if anyone wants to build an image, they can store it in a registry service, and somebody wants to use that image to build a container, they can get it from the registry service. They can get it from the registry service. What is Docker image? Docker image is a template needed to run an application. It's a template. Again, just like a virtual machine also, we can build a template. Okay, so then you can deploy the virtual machine from the template. It consists of application code. This image consists of application code, libraries, that is dependencies, tools, and the other dependencies. Tools. For building an application, whatever the tools are required, that is also will be there with the image. Docker image are read-only immutable files. Once the image is created, it is read-only immutable file. You cannot change the image. If you want to change the application, add some feature to application, you have to create another image. You have to create another image. You do not start or run a Docker image. You cannot run a Docker image. For that, you need to build a container from the image. You cannot start an image or you cannot run an image. For that, you have to first create a container. When the container is created from the Docker image, it creates a container layer on the top of the image layer. Okay, so when the container is created from a Docker image, it creates a container layer on top of the image layer. There has to be a base. Yes.
Sorry for interrupting you, sir.
Yeah.
Just we are almost at the end of the session. Like another 5 minutes we have.
Yeah, another 10 minutes can I take?
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Okay, so I will wind up. Okay, so that is the Docker image. The container can be created from the Docker image. Okay, so here, for creating an image, you need to build a Docker file. A Docker file is just like a shell script. Any script. Okay, so scripting language, no? Shell script. Just like a shell script that defines all the tasks that need to be executed to build an image. So from the Docker file, you can create a Docker image. Then from the Docker image, you can create a container. Docker container. So this is the higher level view. You can build the image. You can store the image in a registry, and from there you can ship the images to any other node, and you can build a containers from that. You can build a container. So build, ship, run workflow it is. So Docker architecture. Again, the Docker is having some commands. So the image is there in the registry. It is a cloud registry or anything. Again, it is a Docker daemon. Instantiate the images and create a container. So daemon means the process which is running forever. Daemon means the process which is running forever. Process means program in running stage. So there are some commands. Docker build. Okay, Docker pull will pull the image. Docker build will build a container. And Docker run will run the container. Okay, Docker pull will pull the image. Docker build will build a container. Once the container is ready, you can run the container using Docker run. I'm not going to touch upon this, how to install the Docker on Ubuntu. So I will share the PPT with the organizers. They will pass it to you. Okay, I'm not going to cover this. There is another thing. I think most of you have already heard about Kubernetes. Docker is for a single machine. Kubernetes is to build a cluster of Dockers. That is to build a cluster. Because we require more computation power or more storage power, we need to go for Kubernetes. Kubernetes is an open source system for automating deployment, scaling, and management of containerized application. If you want to scale or if you want to manage, then you have to go for Kubernetes. It's a mature open source project. It's based on the internal Google project. It's an extensible, flexible API architecture. It provides a lot of APIs, application programming interfaces. Again, APIs are expressed in object types. Okay, so it's not necessarily just about a container. It is not Kubernetes, it's about the cluster. So containers are a good way to bundle and run in your application, that we know. In production environment, you need to manage the containers that run the application and ensure that there is no downtime. Because there will be many containers will be running. Again, there should be no downtime. For example, if the container goes down, another container needs to be started immediately. If one system goes down, another system should be there to run the container. It would not be easier if this behavior was handled by a system. For that, Kubernetes will come to this rescue. Kubernetes provide you with a framework to run distributed system resiliently. To run a distributed system resiliently means if there are failures also, that will not affect our application. Kubernetes takes care of scaling and failover of your application and provides deployment pattern and more. Kubernetes provide you the service discovery and load balancing. Means if you are looking for some images, again, if there are more load on a single machine, it can balance the load. The container can be shipped to the another or migrated to the another node. Storage orchestration, automated rollouts and rollbacks, automatic bin packing, again self-healing in case of failures, and secret and configuration management. Again, the security and all those things will be taken care. This is how the Kubernetes came into picture. Earlier, we have a monolithic application, everything in as a single application. Then they came up with the microservices. So you can see here, this job applicant, job vacancies, recruiters. So what they've done is everything is divided to a smaller services, microservice. For recruiters, some different services, job applicants, different services, and job vacancies, different services. Again, that will made as a container because it's the application level. They made it as a containers. Again, for the scalability, they're going for Kubernetes. In Kubernetes, there is a concept called as pods. It's a primary primitive of running a containerized workload. It is unit of scheduling a resource envelope, scheduling a containers. This pod can contain one or more containers also. One pod will have multiple containers. That pod can be shipped to the node in a cluster. There it will be executed. Containers share network volumes and isolated components. This is the picture of the pod. You can see here the containers, multiple containers in a pod. These containers can share file system and a network of a single system. And this pod is going to execute in a single node. I'm now going to skip the installation of Kubernetes. So why the containers are important in hybrid cloud? I told about the title given is Future of Hybrid Cloud. Because one of the advantages is improved portability. Portability is for different purpose. I have shown the picture of edge computing. The container can port from main cloud to the edge server. That is one advantage. Containers gives developer the ability to create smaller, better performing workloads for their application. It is easier to shift these workloads from on-premises to public and private cloud network migration. Containers are also perfect when implementing a cloud bursting solution to say dynamically improve the storage capacity or accommodate unexpected surges in application or network traffic. Suddenly the load imbalance will happen in one of the node. Then we can shift the containers. Okay, so the application load or a network traffic, by considering all these things, I can port the container from one node to another node. That is one of the advantage. The second one is improved workload automation. So container orchestration platforms such as Kubernetes help automate the deployment of the containerized workload across the entire hybrid work architecture. Distributing. Okay, workload will be distributed to entire hybrid architecture. This allows organization to easily deploy and run their containers on cluster of servers at different locations and in a synchronized manner. So the servers may be there in any part of the world. So easily we can deploy and run it. Kubernetes also significantly improves the scalability of the containerized workload by enabling developers to easily add additional cluster. Any number of nodes can be added, any number of clusters can be added to the existing infrastructure automatically. It will not affect the running application or running containers. Again, resulting in less application downtime and better performance. The last advantage is ready for cloud native developments. When developer writes, test, and deploy the applications inside the container, the environment stays the same regardless of where the application resides and become a perfect cloud native ready. Whatever the application you build, it will be ready to run it on any platform. Okay, yes, it may be dependent on operating system. You can have the virtual machine and run the container on that. Multiple containers on that. So as organization move to PaaS, platform as a service, and serverless infrastructure, containers give them a flexibility. They need to quickly pivot their approach and deploy their application seamlessly without interruption. So without interruption, they are able to deploy the applications. So sorry, I've taken additional 9 minutes. So these are the references. I will share the PPT with your organizers, so you can go through that. So if you have any questions, so a couple of questions I can take.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for this wonderful and insightful session on cloud computing and containers. We learned a great deal about containers, their origin, the way cloud computing has been originated from for time, then much more stuff. So we'll now take up any questions. If anybody has any questions, you can put it in the chat box, or you can unmute and speak up. Participants, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box.
Okay, so off the line, I can take up the questions. Rubini is having my mail ID, so she can share with you guys. Okay, so if you don't have questions, then we can stop the meeting here.
Yes, sir. We have a small token of appreciation from our student chapter. I will share my screen.
Oh, 1 minute, I will end the presentation.
Yes. We thank you so much, sir, for giving a insightful session to our participants. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for also giving us some interesting facts about the cloud computing. And on behalf of my team members and coordinators, I pass my thanks to even the audience for their significant presence, as well as Anjan sir and Sunanda ma'am. They're not there right now, but also for giving us this opportunity to organize this event. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.